Hi there, this is Manu Bennett. You may or may not know that I played Billy Kitka in 30 Days of Night, horror film from 2007 with Josh Hartnett. If you don't know that and you need to know more facts about horror movies, tune into Don't Go Out There. I'll say it again. Don't Go Out There. Horror Movie Review Podcast. Rah!
In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Hey everybody to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. I'd like to welcome you all back. Tonight we're recording another film that's not really a slasher movie at all. It's kind of been a somewhat of a breath of fresh air, I guess, for maybe some of the hosts and the listeners. We actually got a lot of good feedback from Amityville Horror about, swapping it up from a slasher. So that's good. And we're going to keep doing that, y'all. We're going to keep, we're not going to only do slashers. We're going to, bounce around the whole horror genre. And you're going to see that within the next few weeks. But tonight we are reviewing, this is episode 9. Tonight we're reviewing my man Brian. He picked 30 Days of Night. And sorry for missing last week, but not really. But first of all, as all three of us co-hosts besides Brian, we'd all like to congratulate Brian on the new addition to his family. We're very grateful for a safe delivery, and the family's all doing good. They're back home, so that's awesome. So if we're ever going to miss episodes, guys, I'd like it for good reasons. No bad news for none of us. So that's a good thing.
If I'm slurring my words tonight, it's not because I'm drunk. It's because I'm really tired.
Oh, newborn will do that to you.
Before we jump into the review, I want to announce I have a trivia question at the end of the show. So stay tuned for that. If you get the first person to tweet the correct answer to the account will win a free t-shirt. And just giving everyone a heads up, we have not only a Twitter account now, but we have Facebook and Instagram. Just search for Don't Go Out There on those two social medias and you'll find us. But so this is a different movie. I hadn't seen this movie until this past week. I'll be the first to admit I haven't watched a ton of, the vampire movies, subgenre of horror. I've seen, really the only one I've seen is Underworld, Rise of the Lycans. I haven't even seen all of the Underworld films. So tonight was the first time I saw this movie, this week was the first time I saw this movie. But I really, it was good. It's something I'm not really used to, but I really enjoyed the film. Mike, what's your general thoughts on this film real quick?
So I saw this one time. Again, this movie came out right around the time I got back, if you will, or actually got into horror. You got to remember, 2007, told my story on here before, Rob Zombie's Shitty Halloween that I rated number 5 for some reason. But this came out right around that time, and I remember seeing it after the fact and liked it. But I hadn't seen it since. It didn't seem like something I had to go rewatch. One, it's almost 2 hours long. But I rewatched it again this week, and I enjoyed it. I know some people might look at this and maybe question if it's horror, but to me, they actually did a decent job of making vampires scary, which is hard to do, especially in the wake of movies like, Twilight, where they're sparkly. This movie did a good job of making them scary, at least in my opinion. So, job well done on that. And by the way, I really like this movie, and we'll get into it, because it kind of has two elements of horror. It's got vampires, killer vampires, and it has the winter, the cold, the dark, the night.
Yeah.
And that alone
can
kill you along with the vampire. So it has two elements of danger, and I like that.
Go ahead, Drew. We'll let Brian go last, like we let you go last.
I've seen this movie probably 4 or 5 times, maybe a little more than that, but I've seen it a few times. But I'd rewatched it. Matter of fact, me, my wife, and my daughter who loves horror, decided to watch it this afternoon before we went to dinner, and it was good. I enjoyed watching it again. It's a movie I would watch again. It's not a movie I'm going to go searching for. I'm one of them. I'm one of those guys Mike was just talking about, where you might question if it's horror or not. I have a very specific type of bar that my horror movies have to hit for me to
The
say it's a
Blob.
horror.
That's
But that's
the
just
bar.
me. Like we said before, that's just me. I have a certain bar that I like to, which is fine. But I enjoyed the movie overall. It was good. It was good moments of got the heart pumping. What to do. And another thing of like with he was talking about the horror parts of it was like the stalker mentality, because the vampires kind of had that stalker mentality in throughout the town. But it's good. I liked it.
All right, Brian, let's go ahead and give us your general thoughts and just tell us why you picked this as well.
Well, it's my favorite vampire film. I know that they've made some sequels. Actually, they made another sequel with a continuation of Melissa George's character, Stella, in this one, and she was recasted though, and it was terrible. But
That was awful.
Never
seen
and that
it,
and
but
that and this yeah, and this movie is actually based on a graphic novel, which I haven't read either. But I think the pitch of this movie, like taking place in the like 30 days of Alaskan polar night, in a small isolated town. It's simple, but I really think it's brilliant, and it's something different. Most vampire movies you have to survive just overnight. This is a full month until sunlight comes back. So this isn't your typical vampire movie. It's vampires cutting loose. It's not the hiding in the shadows, the hiding their existence. Vampires. These aren't your Anne Rice Interview with the Vampire romantic ones. These are
right.
these are apex killers who are basically in Disney World.
Right.
So, and they're here to have fun and kill people. And I really think that the cinematography in this movie is what catches, what really, I think gives me that's what makes me really like this movie a lot. I think that probably everybody's on edge right now wanting to know Mike's take on the final girl on this movie, because he has a take on every final girl. So I would love to know. I'm holding off because I'm
just did
on
the
the edge of my
eyebrows.
seat.
We're gonna get into Stella.
Eyebrows for that
Hey,
one.
we're gonna get into Stella. I know some of you guys, earlier in the week were like, I'm gonna have a hard time remembering their names. I didn't have a hard time remembering her name. Real quick though, to piggyback off of something you said, and then we can start, breaking down the scenes. But excuse my mic. This actually, okay. So the writer, he had heard of this town in Alaska, I believe at Barrow, Alaska, where it's dark for 60 days, and the first thing he thought of was vampires, which is a really unique concept. I don't really know why your mind would go there, but like you said, normally it's 24 hours, sun comes back up. Here, it's 30 days. And so that's actually a really unique concept that he came up with. I believe it actually has some comic book.
It was written as a comic.
Right.
Before it
So
even,
it's got
before it even hit
right.
there.
Yeah.
Right. So it started out as a comic book, ended up a graphic novel. This thing kind of floated around Hollywood for like 6, 7 years, 8 years before somebody, Sam Raimi, and then finally picked it up. So really cool backstory there.
Oh yeah.
I picked this movie and I really love it, but I'll be the first to tell you that there are definitely some cons in this movie that I'll get into too. But I definitely agree with some of the cons that everybody's going to have.
Before we jump into the review, guys, one thing I thought caught me that I didn't catch at first, but after I kept looking at her, I was like, this main girl looks familiar, and it ties into the last week. This is from the Amityville Horror. From the remake. She was she was Kathy in that film. I was like, okay, I remember her now.
Good catch.
But
wait till we review that movie.
I'm gonna be honest with my co-host and the listeners. This movie was kind of hard for me to remember all of the characters' names. So if I do apologize if there are any super diehard 30 Days of Nights fans who tune in. So if I get a character's name wrong, I apologize.
Drew, you threw that up. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. But you threw that up on the screen. It's 3 characters worth remembering names of. Sorry. Now, there's some really good characters, but there's 3 you really need to know. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's true.
And
that's true.
I'll be honest, this was kind of, I told Brian this too, this was kind of the hardest movie for me to take notes on. I had to rewind a lot just because I'm not going to, jump to my criticisms right now, but it kind of just bounces around a lot. But that doesn't take away from the actual, of what it's doing, in this movie. But I'm going to let's go ahead and start this review. The very beginning of the movie, you just get kind of like a scenic view, and it just has some captions come up. It says, Barrow, I think it's Barrow, Alaska. It says it's the most northern town in the United States. It's isolated in 80 miles of road wilderness, and it's in every winter there's 30 days of nights. That's how it starts off, and the film starts with this guy just walking through the Arctic tundra. And this guy is also, he's going to be known as, his only name on IMDb was just The Stranger. The caption comes on the screen, says it's the last day of sun. And then it just, he's walking around, he sees like these ships, abandoned ships everywhere. And now we're with Eben and Billy. And big shout out to Billy. I'm going to give him a lot of praise later, but he's from one of my favorite shows of all time. And, they just find something kind of weird just out in the middle of the nowhere. They just find a pile of burned cell phones everywhere. They start discussing, what caused it. Was it kids playing a prank? Was it this? Was it that? They can't really figure out why there's just this little pile of burnt cell phones everywhere. Then, they just have some, generic conversation about this being the last day of sun. Now we're back at the fire department, and we're introduced to Stella. And we're made aware that she and Eben are husband and wife, but they're going through some relationship problems. So she says they're separating, and she's getting ready to leave town. And now, then it kind of transitions to where we see, like, you see a hand holding a big knife, and it's killing like these sled dogs. They're just barking at the person, killing the dogs, and then this is what I was talking about. It jumps from like these little small scenes, like, and after you see the blade, the knife killing the sled dog. Now Eben is talking to this guy Bo, and he's just working on his truck, and then he says, "Hey man, I got to cite you for leaking all this oil all over the ground." And Bo's like, "Man, why you got to do that to me?" and all that. Then Eben gets back in the truck. Billy's like, "Man, why'd you do that?" And he's like, "Well, I just wanted him to feel included in the city because he lives so far away." Then Eben gets a radio call that something happened to all these dogs. See, and then it cuts to Stella. She's driving, and then all of a sudden she's hit by this vehicle with like a big saw on the front. It looks like a big chainsaw or something on the front of it. I don't know what that's about. But
they use it good later.
Yeah, it's used very well later. Stella, her car is hit by that big. It looks like a bulldozer with a chainsaw on the front. The dude jumps out and makes sure she's okay. She calls Eben, tells him what happened, but Eben's like, "Oh, so you don't want to talk to me?" So Eben just kind of cons off. He said, "Hey Billy, go pick up Stella. She got into a wreck. Take her to the airport." Brian, do you want to give your quick thoughts on those few scenes real quick?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, first off, I'll go ahead and give my con, and there's only one con that I have about this movie, but it's probably the biggest one and can explain probably most of everybody else's if I'm going to say it. But I mean, I would have liked to have seen it's almost like it's too compressed. It's almost like it's too compressed for a movie, and I almost feel like that this would make a really good TV series. I would have liked to have seen more, survival. It's almost like this would have fit TV better because it's the opposite complaint I had about last week's, where last week's I felt it was too long and could have been progressed more. This movie, I really feel like could have gone another, 8 or 9 episodes of an hour. Honestly, I mean, you could have built up all of these characters a lot more.
Walking Dead.
Yeah. I mean, it could have been, a Walking Dead before Walking Dead was, but probably more hardcore, like an HBO type or something.
Mm-hmm.
But the opening here, I don't think it's not some big opening, but it does a good job to me. And you don't even really figure it out until later, but it does a really good job of establishes a lot of stuff that has a lot of payoffs later.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that. I will go ahead and give a shout out to the graphics people because like the opening, just the very, very opening with the Columbia statue and it being pitch dark. I really liked the graphic work right there too. As far as the first couple of scenes, the burning satellite phones and stuff, it's a lot of things that older movies didn't really have to explain. Whereas, you could say, oh, well, if they had cell phones, half of these horror movies, would have never even happened. But, they have to explain how to get away with satellite phones, how to cut off all their escape. So like I said, I really feel like that it does a good job of kind of establishing what's going to happen later.
Go ahead, Mike.
Everything you said, 100% agree with, including the con. Something I really did like, though, is it does a good job of kind of setting up Hartnett's character of being the good guy in a way, like how he just kind of wants to make him feel included in the town. Like, okay, you have I mean, he's not like the perfect person or anything, but you have an established good guy that you can kind of get behind throughout this movie. And you see it right away. He's the sheriff. He cares about the people of the town. He cares about the town. And so I think this, the first couple scenes, while not like a big time opening or anything, they do a good job of setting up some characters, like Brian said, that pay off later down the road.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, Eben is, I'm glad you brought. He is the sheriff in town. Go ahead, Drew.
My same notes is kind of, my same impressions of the beginning is the same ways. Like, there's a lot of setting up of what they're trying to do, and if you're not really paying attention to it, you're just like, okay, what does that got to do? But it doesn't really register until you get to when it starts coming in, and then you're like, oh shit, that's why they did that. That's why they did this. So it plays a good role to set up in the beginning, but it really pays off in the middle and towards the end of the movie.
And I'm gonna read these next few scenes, but I'm glad Brian touched on something. This probably would have been a really good, one season. If you
Right.
made it into
Miniseries,
like
yeah.
a TV program, like a one season, because it just jumps from like cut to cut to cut to cut so fast. There's not, and I'm not criticizing the movie because the film is good, and then we'll get deeper into that, but it doesn't really give us a what brought these what brought the what
Mm-hmm.
happened with their relationship, but. So the next scene, it just shows up, Eben shows up to John's house and he sees all the dogs are died. John, him and John are talking, and then Eben tells him, he's like, these dogs were killed recently. So he's like, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to figure out what happened to them. And, Eben gets back to the station. I think that's his brother who's there. And Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but is that his mom that works there as well? Who's the lady at the station? Is that his mom and brother?
I think it's his grandma and brother. Maybe I'm
Grandma.
wrong
Okay.
on that.
Yeah,
I thought it was
grandma
his
and brother. Yeah, grandmother and brother.
Okay. And they get the grandmother tells them, that there has been some vandalisms in town, and and now it says Billy, he goes and he gets Stella to the airport, and the worst thing that could happen to you when you're stuck in or Alaska, the freaking airport's already closed. So Chelsea's like, now she's pissed because she can't leave. She's like, oh great, now I'm stuck here for 30 days of night, you know. And she gets I wrote down Stella and Even. They obviously have a lot of problems going on between them. Um, Even he goes to after this. Even goes to this guy Wilson's business, and like there's this thing that we're going to see later that really fucks some people up. It's like he's got like this big machine. It looks like just like a big wood grinder, maybe. I'm not sure what exactly it is, but it looks like a big grinder.
It's used to
And
crush up the ice and snow in the middle of the road so the snow plows can go through.
okay, yeah, okay, so yeah, crusher grinder. And Wilson, he's telling us like what so I guess he's the one complaining about the vandalism. He's pissed off about it. And then this is where you start seeing some violence and some gore happen. So we cut over to this guy Gus, and I guess he's the watchman of the satellite tower. And he's inside, he's listening, and he hears some noises outside. And the first thing you don't do in a horror movie is you go check out the noise.
Don't
But
go out
he
there.
goes. That's right, you don't
Don't
go
go
out
out
there.
there.
Shameless plug. But Gus
Yes.
goes outside. He's got his big flashlight looking around. And then the camera. I thought it was a pretty cool shot, honestly. It shows like these things circling him, and you can tell just by looking at it, it's not just one person. You see all these different things circling him. Then he starts getting attacked, and these vampires. They hack this guy. They bite his neck, and that's when we're first kind of introduced to the vampires. I'm gonna read this next scene. I'm gonna get you guys' thoughts. Now we're at the diner, and the guy I told y'all about at the very beginning of the film, the stranger. He looks pretty. He's a sketchy looking character. He's that guy at the restaurant. He's the guy at the Waffle House being real loud, being real weird. He asks the waitress for whiskey, and she's just kind of like, huh? Then he's like, never mind, just bring me a bowl of raw hamburger meat. Then, it kind of zooms in like like on the first Friday the 13th, it zooms in on his teeth. You see his teeth, and he's like, ooh, something ain't right with this man's teeth. And Eben shows up and he tells him, hey man, we don't need no trouble. Let's go outside. Let's talk about this. But the stranger starts getting kind of physical, and he's ready to he's probably about to fight or attack Eben. But Stella gets right up behind him and puts a pistol to his head. They arrest the stranger. Then, then this is where this is one of my favorite scenes, honestly. After they arrest the stranger, we flash to these three oil workers. You know, it's two guys and a girl, and I'm pretty sure these two guys are running a train on this girl every night after work. But you know, they're just taking turns saying, "Hey, which house are we going to? You know, which house are we going to?" And then the girls, you know, they start playing. I think rock paper scissors, something like that. But then all of a sudden, as they're walking to their car, the one dude just gets grabbed and snatched out of nowhere and like ripped into this garage. Then the other guy and the girl are like, dude, what just happened? Then, you know, they show where the body is thrown back into their feet or whatever. And you see he's got his neck bitten and attacked and he's dying, he's bleeding. Then it just cuts away as into it running away. Brian, you want to go first and tell me about them two scenes?
Yeah, sure. That girl that was getting the train run on her. Really, I mean, I was trying to think, man, who is this girl and who she looks like? And I really thought that it was the same girl from Freddy versus Jason that looks just like her. It's not, but I had to look that up, and that was pointless. But just wanted to let you know that's what I was thinking just then. But Ben Foster, the dude who plays the stranger, to me, like, and that I mean, I think he does a great job. I think that he is like a lot of everybody else in this movie. I mean, you can kind of say what you want about Josh Hartnett, but I really think that everybody in this movie has superb acting. And I mean, a lot of these actors, are very well known, very well established. And I think Ben Foster has a very small role in this movie, but he does a great job of setting the tension, and kind of reminding the audience that, hey, number one, there's no way out. And I really like his line. I think it's a little touch a little bit later whenever he's in the jail cell talking to Josh Hartnett's character Eben, but when he says, what, that cold ain't the weather. I really liked that line.
Go ahead, Mike.
I agree. I'm probably going to do it a lot in this review. I agree with Brian as far as the acting. Like the acting in this movie throughout, it's really strong. You don't get that from many horror like movies. Like I'm not saying there's not good acting in horror. There is. It goes underappreciated sometimes, like Nev Campbell in Scream. Anyway,
Right.
there is really good acting in horror. This is one of the shining examples of it, though. Like you said, Ben Foster is really good. Not a huge role, but his role stands out. And the scenes in the jail cell, which we're going to get to, he's great. And so, again, this movie, scene by scene by scene, as you're breaking it down, a lot of these early scenes, they're not like something that I need to pay attention, but they don't grab me, but they all pay off later. Like there's just a lot of setting up until you get to like the middle of the second act of this movie. And so really in the first, I don't know, 45 minutes or so, I'm into the movie because of the cinematography, because of some of the gore.
Right.
And they do a good job with the vampires, the look of these vampires. They're like, I'm really, because like I said at the very beginning, the vampires can look really cheesy and really hokey, and they don't in this movie, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, they definitely. This is a really good. They treat this movie to me kind of like a normal slasher movie. They kind of just kind of tease a few kills, and right there at the climax, it really it's all balls to the wall. But all right, now we're back in the jail cell, and Eben is questioning the stranger. He's asking him, what he's doing, what he's been up to, like what is your motive, and then Eben's grandma says, "Hey, Eben, computer's down." So he's like, "Uh-oh." So now Eben tries to make a phone call, and he notices that the phone lines are down. And now the stranger starts talking, he starts saying some, like I said in the other film review with Texas Chainsaw, when Uncle Monty, says, "You're so dead you don't even, you're so dead you don't even know it." You kind of get that same goose pimple feeling with what the stranger says in the jail cell.
Right.
He says, "They're coming." And Eben's like, "Who is they?" Now the power goes out, and he even says, he's going to go to the cell tower. He gets there and he calls for Gus, but he sees blood all over the ground, and then he sees Gus's head on a pole. I was like, "Oh shoot!" He says over. He drives back into town. He sees, the residents of the town out in the street, and they're asking what's going on. And even straight, I mean, he's no bullshit with the crowd. Or the town people. He says, "Hey guys, I don't know what's going on, but if you have a generator, go inside and just chill out, and we'll figure this out, and I'll let you know what's going on. So now we're back to Johnson. The vampire, all the vampire scenes, I will admit, I think all the vampire scenes, guys, are really good.
Yeah.
It's the other character stuff that's kind of weak to me. But now we're back at John's house, and John and his wife, they're just having generic husband and wife. Hey, let's get ready for dinner conversation. But then all of a sudden, this vampire just jumps into their house and he snatches John's wife out, and it's super intense. He does, and they're so fast. And he just rips John's wife underneath. Like, all of these houses are like built on stilts, I guess, or something. I guess it's for snow reasons or whatever. Right. But he snatches the wife underneath the house. John is trying to get, like any husband, he's trying to save his wife. But, she keeps coming out from the house, but keeps getting snatched. John gets his leg cut up by the vampire's claws. And now I'm going to read this next scene, then we'll get some more thoughts. The stranger tells Stella that death is coming. But now the stranger tries to attack Jake, Evan's little brother. But Even, he walks in, of course, just in time and shoots the stranger. And he just falls down in the cell. So he handcuffs him to like the jail bars. And he asked the stranger, like, what happened to Gus? And then all the stranger tells him is like, you're a dead man. So Stella and Even leave. This is another cool scene. Stella and Even are in their SUV driving off, and Even's like, get out. Oh, stop, get out of the car. He's like, I saw something. But then Stella gets her binoculars and looks down the horizon and sees, and she tells Even the exact same line he says, like, get the fuck back in the car. And I was like, oh shoot, what's going on? So they start driving off, but you see, the camera shot backs out and you see them driving, and then you kind of see this vampire just run up from behind it super fast and jump on top. And it kind of reminded me of, Jeepers Creepers, the chase scene, but this vampire gets on top of the car, and he's like punching into the roof, and they're shooting at it, and she's finally smart, slams on the brakes, slings it off of him. She throws it in reverse, and she's going wide open. And it's pretty awesome. I really like that scene. They get back into town. They see the buildings on fire. They get a crying. They get they hear all these crying pleas on the radio. They get to the station. They see blood everywhere. They see the stranger still handcuffed to the bars, and he says they didn't take him. Even ask him, did they take my brother? And all the stranger asking, would you put him out of my misery? Just kill me now. And Stella says, don't do it. Mike, what's your thoughts on those scenes?
Okay, a couple things. Grandma likes to smoke a little pot, so that's what's up. Okay, right off the back there. No, I actually, out of all the stuff you talked about, the most memorable thing for me was the car scene, the vampire being on top of the car. Really well done, really well shot. As far as how they used the camera worked there. I like the interaction between, I don't know, are we going with Evan?
It is even.
Okay. Even, odd, whatever. I like the interaction between him and Stella. Really, really good scene. Got me right into the movie. And not that I wasn't into the movie before, but I'm like, okay, this can only go crazier from here. And I think they did a really good job with that. And I mentioned earlier, I love the jail cell scenes. All the ones with Ben Foster's character, I think, are really good. They're coming, they're gonna take me with them this time, and they end up not taking him. So, and that's a really good scene too, because there's a part of me that really wanted I really wanted him to kill him. But then I remembered we're supposed to be pulling for this guy, and he's supposed to be a good guy. And in this case, the most suffering that this guy would get would be to just sit there. And so I guess that's kind of the message of that. But no, a lot happened, but a lot was kind of, I don't know. Like I talked about earlier, we're about to really get into the meat of the movie with the vampires here coming up. So this is just kind of that last little step we have to take to get there. And the car scene is part of that.
Go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, I like the car scene. It kind of reminded me of the Matrix car scene. It's car chase down the
Yeah.
freeway. I would just getting up there, grabbing on everything, and shooting through the roof, and
Yep.
really good. And the grandma thing, with the little grow house or whatever mixture is another one of those things where it's put there at the beginning so you can kind of see, and you're like, oh shit, he uses it later on for another thing. It's something there that you're like, oh yeah, I remember that being a part of the whole thing. It's another one of those beginners that sets it up to use in the middle or the end of the movie, which they've done really well in this. Because sometimes you get caught up in those things, and you're like, well, they could have done without that. It could have just been a part of it, in the middle of the movie. But yeah, I really enjoyed the car scene.
Go ahead, Brian.
I'll say, I mean, I didn't hate it, but the jail scene to me is sandwiched in between two really amazing
Yeah,
scenes.
that's
And the
true.
jail scene in this jail scene to me, just kind of, it was almost like it was the writing for some reason. It was almost like either it went from, 1 to 100 super fast, but it was, I don't know, the emotion wasn't,
Right.
I didn't feel the emotion that they were really conveying in this, especially Hartnett's character. So I mean, it was a little bit meh, but like I said, and like you guys said, it's sandwiched to me in between really two really amazing scenes. And the next scene to me is my favorite one in the whole movie. So
I really did like the second scene in the jail where he's trying or I guess the last well we're not there yet, so I'll wait. I'm getting the two confused. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's no problem. Now
There's
the
one more.
vampires are super cool. The lead vampire, his name is Marlowe.
Mm-hmm.
Now with the vampires, Marlowe, he's their leader. He's telling all of his, his army of, his squad of vampires. He's like, separate them from their head. And you're like, oh shit, okay. Now, and then it cuts back to the diner, and everyone's asking, like, what are they? What are they? Then it shows, the vampires in a couple's house. The vampire pins, the man. He pins the man to the wall, and he like stabs like this thing through him. And then the female vampire bites the woman's neck, starts biting her. This is this is the probably one of this. I don't know if it's the best scene, but it's one of the best looking visuals of the
Right.
movie.
It is.
You
oh
know, after the female vampire bites that woman's neck, I wrote, now the town is in pure chaos.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's like back in ancient history, when the Vikings would pillage villages or whatever. The vampires are pillaging these people now. It shows a bunch of close ups of the vampires attacking people. It has a bunch of aerial shots of them attacking them, and it's really really awesome. I don't want to downplay the scene, but it's just pure carnage, guys.
Now, real quick, yeah. Hey, real quick, it was the first sign of 0 to 100. Like it's like, all right,
Yeah.
this movie's kicking it up. Let's do this.
Yeah. And I didn't, Drew called me out on not, making the priest not dramatic enough. So I didn't want to,
Well,
I didn't want to not make this film, this scene not be
one scene's better than the other. I'll let you have a guess which one that is.
insert Kermit meme. Stella and Eben, they get back to the diner. Eben and his brother, they just get a quick hug because he's happy he's still alive. They keep asking like, who are they? What do they want? They all ask like, where are we supposed to go? What are we supposed to do? Because they're raiding every house. They're like, well, let's go to this neighbor's house. He's got this pull down ladder into the attic, and they won't be able to find us because it's not visual. So even he's going to go get some traps, and as he's driving, this does not go well for him. They like get right up behind it and like snatch it up. They flip it over. They're stuck underneath. They're stuck inside this SUV, and they're like circling him. But then all of a sudden, that guy Bo, who he cited earlier, shows up out of nowhere and just he just plows into them with like this truck with a snowplow on the front. And I guess I will nitpick this a little bit because you've seen these vampires run super fast and catch up to cars, but they can't catch Stella and Eben when they're running to get in the getaway truck. But I guess I won't get too bad into it. The Bo, Stella, and even they all get to the house. They break in, and they pull down the ladder to the attic, and then that just shows a couple of the faces. They showed they all got there safe, and they're all up there, and they hear some screams from the. They hear some screams outside on the street. Brian, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, first of all, I can't really say enough about Danny Houston, the portrayal of Marlowe, the lead vampire. Like his character, his acting is absolutely amazing. He gives us like an amazing performance here and makes this movie to me. I mean, he gives you a real sense of his long age with just his acting. And just how I guess how powerful he is without ever even doing anything, if that makes sense to me. But I mean, I think that's just nothing but a testament to Danny Houston and his acting in this movie. And again, like I'll say this scene is my favorite scene as far as I can't say enough about the cinematography, and I'll say it 50,000 more times. But the shot with everybody being pulled out of their homes, it's an overhead shot, it's almost like a drone, where it's just showing the mayhem. There's no music. It's just almost silence. It's just gunshots, blood splatter all over the snow as it just moves through the town. I mean, there's not even, I mean, the score, it's almost the lack of score makes it even more powerful. And I'll say, hey, I will say it is one of the best horror movie scenes by itself, of all time, in my opinion.
Like, you pretty much said everything I have to say, so I'm going to piggyback off of it. This is a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier, where they use the snow, the weather, as part of the horror. Like, not only are these vampires attacking us, but it's cold and dark as shit, and you can feel it in in that scene. Like you really get a good idea of not just the one horror or the other one, but the other one. And on top of that, you said the way they use the camera in this shot is great. The way they use the scene to kind of kick the movie up a notch is great, and the silence that you talked about, it's cold, it's dark, and it's quiet. And sitting amongst that quiet is this craziness with these damn vampires. Like we talked about, the scene, how that scene starts is one of my, that I was like, oh shit. I set up real quick because I hadn't seen it in a while, and I forgot that scene was in there. And man, I love that scene. So bravo. I mean, I can't say enough about that scene. I think, well, I'll wait till the end.
Go ahead, Drew.
Because another scene might come along and changes my mind.
This is probably the favorite. I wouldn't say it's probably my favorite scene of all of it. I mean, obviously it's not my favorite kill or nothing like that. It's my favorite scene, the way it sets up and it just gets in there, and it's like once it starts, just grabs a hold of you, and just runs you until you get to the end of it. And the funny thing is, when Brian said, the lack of score, I actually put that in there. I said the lack of music gives you this almost like you versus them, the good versus bad, the survival. Like you're just concentrating on what's going on right there because you don't have. Sometimes the music helps you get to the end, to feel the importance of that scene, and it didn't need it to pump it up to where you needed to be in that scene.
Right.
Yeah, you made a really good point. This movie. In a lot of other slasher films, the only element that you have to worry about is the slasher. In this movie, you not only have to worry about, the vampires, but, for 30 days, you're pretty much stuck in a blizzard. You have to survive all these days. You have to survive the weather. You have to survive how are you going to get food? There's a lot on these, these town people's plate besides just an actual slasher. So now we're back in the jail, and Marlowe, the lead vampire, he's with the stranger. And I think this is a pretty good. Like I said, I like all the scenes pretty much with the vampires. It's all great. I love these vampires. He's just talking to the stranger, and then it's probably one of the worst neck breaks I've ever seen in a movie. Marlowe and another female vampire there, and he just breaks the stranger's neck and kills him. And then I wrote down some basic notes. One of the old guys in the attic, he starts freaking out. He's like, he don't know what's going on. He's ready to get up out of there. But then Stella, she hears noises outside, and she sees, the vampires vandalizing a neighbor's house, and then all the people who are up in the attic, they start arguing about, like, what's the best plan to, like, what's the next move? Because they know they can't just stay in this attic forever because they're vandalizing every house, lighting them on fire. And then they see this lady walking through the street, and, they want to go help her, but they also can see all the vampires on top of the house. So they kind of pick up real quick. They're just using this lady as bait to see if they'll come help them. And like Brian said, Marlo, I can't remember the actor's real name, but Marlo is really good in this part. And I actually used this GIF on the Twitter account. She's like, "There's no one left. There's no one left. I tried. Basically is what he's telling Marlo. And then she starts pleading for God. And then Marlo looks right at her, and he says, "There is no God." And then, they start attacking her. But then it shows even he's outside and he hears he's hiding around a corner and he hears like his name getting called from him from underneath the house. And he notices it's that guy, John, who was trying to save his wife, and he sees John under there. So, he nonchalantly runs over there and gets underneath the house. Then it just shows the vampires taking turns attacking the lady in the street. Now we're back in the attic. There's more arguing. Art even runs over to John, but he notices, this is a really cool scene too. He notices that John is a vampire now. John, even's trying to, like, he sees that John's not acting right, and John tries to bite him in the neck. He pulls out his pistol, but even he trips over like the swing set, and John's attacking him, but he somehow gets tangled up in all these swings, and even grabs an axe and starts hacking this guy's head off. Even gets back to the house. He's struggling to breathe. This is when I find out that he has asthma or whatever, because he's just laying on the ground in the kitchen or whatever. He can't catch his breath. And then excuse you, Drew. And then after it shows even on the ground not being able to breathe real well, it shows all the vampires who find John's body in the swing set with his head cut off. Mike, do you want to give your quick thoughts on those things? I thought, like I said, all the scenes with the vampire is really good. It's kind of the other characters.
I was going to say,
stuff's kind of confusing. Go ahead, Mike.
I don't have many notes on this. It's not that it's not good. There's just not a whole lot to take away other than stuff I've already said. Cinematography, the way it's, the atmosphere, the mood, the vibe. It kept me engaged. But like you said, it was getting a little hard to follow because it's almost like some of the backstory is a little rushed. Like we know the marital problem between the two main characters, the brother, all that stuff. John, yeah, okay. But I don't necessarily have like a whole lot that isn't on these vampire scenes because to me, that's like the height of the movie is each vampire scene. It's not that it's not good. There's just not a whole lot to take away, in my opinion.
No, I agree with you. It's just like there's a lot of like these characters in the attic and they try and like involve them all.
Right.
And you can't, it's kind of hard to just keep up with like their story, like what they're doing, like what their names are, honestly.
Right.
Brian, go ahead. What's your thoughts, man?
I'll say as far as the scene in the attic, this scene, Josh Hartnett loses me a little bit. And this is where, and I said off air about how good of an actor Josh Hartnett is. I really like him in almost every movie that I watch. I just feel like he might be a little bit miscast. And this is the scene that really leads me to, he just doesn't, he gives this great convincing motivational speech that doesn't motivate at all, and I think that's just a testament to the just to, do something. It's just a testament to the to the writing, I think, but hey, the girl walking down the road screaming, it's great cinematography there you can see the rooftop vampires jumping on the rooftops in the back, like you can barely see them. And holy shit, the swing set scene, hey, you can say anything you want, but this damn movie has some amazing practical effects in it.
Oh, absolutely.
Almost none of it's CG, and holy shit,
hands down,
they all look absolutely real. Like every time somebody gets an axe to the head, it shows it, and they look unbelievably good. Like I really think it's some of the best practical effects in any horror movie I've ever seen as well.
All of that stuff is great. Like throughout the entire movie, everything that we've like kind of spoke on, just like we said, it's not that some of these scenes are filler. They're just kind of, you're rushing us as far as these characters go. And like you mentioned earlier, it'd be really good to have this in like a little 8-episode series. Like, why this character is here, why is he important? Because other than that, I'm only focused on one or two, three guys, or one or two, three people. So yeah.
Drew, you got any quick thoughts?
No, not really. Just the scene with where she's like trying to get them to all come out, and then you need to see there's a terror in her face, like I did what you asked me to. I did what you asked me to. It's really great. Like it was good. It's great because like you're just like, oh no, they're not that smart. They're not really that smart. But you can see how calculated this group of vampires really is. Like he's just like, no, it's bait. That's bait. And then she's like, I tried, man. And you're just like, oh shit. Okay, so this isn't your typical vampire that's just going out and going after people. And even though, like Brian, I agree with you, Brian, on the looks of these, the kills, the practicality on them, and how well it is. This is actually this kill, with the chopping on the neck, is actually my least favorite kill of this whole movie.
Well, I mean, there's some other really cool kills.
I know.
I mean,
I
so
know.
it's like,
I'm just saying, but it wasn't because it didn't look good or look fake. It was compared to all these other kills through the thing. It was underwhelming for me by the time I got to the end.
By the way, I'm an impressionist around here. Don't you gimmicking fringe? What's wrong with you? I'm just kidding, man. I'm just kidding. Impersonate away. I don't care.
All right, now we're back in the house, and the old guy, he's freaking out. He's like, I'm out of here. I'm getting up out of here. And Stella and Wilson is the old guy's son. They calm him down. He just, he goes to the bathroom. But you hear a noise from the bathroom, and Wilson breaks the door open. But Stella's like, no, don't break the door open. Don't make any noise. We don't want to know that we're here. But, he pushes Stella off of him. She falls and hurts herself. And then after they get the bathroom open, you see that the old man has snuck out of the house. Let me flip my page real quick. The vampire, they get into the hideout. But he hears Wilson out in the street calling for his dad. So he goes back outside. Then, Wilson is drugged under a house and killed. Then the kills aren't bad, but you don't really see it. He just gets snuck. He just gets snatched under there. Stella is crying, with even saying he should have fought harder to keep Wilson there. And then, then they just hear like some running noises on the roof. Now the snow, like Mike said earlier, it's snowing now. Like it is, like none of us in Florida have to worry about this, but it is snowing up there. So they know they have to leave for a new hideout. They get to the store and they look for, supplies, something to eat, flashlights, all that good stuff. And they hear, this is a cool scene. They hear the like a vampire noise, and they find this little girl, and she's I don't know if it's her parent or not, but she's eating like an adult. And she attacks Eben. They get her, and then she attacks another guy, but they get her off of him. They push this little girl up against the wall. And then Eben's little brother, Jake, takes the axe and starts hacking this little girl's head off. And you can tell he's kind of like emotionally scarred by it. Stella tells him that these vampires can't handle the light. So Eben says, all right, well, I'll distract them. So he runs into the street yelling to get their attention off of him so these other characters can get free. Eben gets to the shed where there's a generator and cranks it up. The others are sneaking off. One guy is got by a vampire. This vampire just jumps from the roof and grabs this guy and eats him, and then the rest of them just kind of don't give a fuck and just run off without him. It's and then all the vampires, they know Eben is in this shed, so they're getting ready to go in on him. And this female, I guess is would y'all think this is maybe Marlowe's wife, maybe, or
something like that.
Something like that.
Gotta be something.
Definitely his partner, love interest.
Yeah. So the female vampire, she breaks his door up. She's running in, but as soon as she opens the door, Eben throws his light on her, and like her whole face is like completely burnt. Like, and, she's almost about to die. And let me get y'all's thoughts on all that real quick. Go ahead, Brian.
This is one of those things where I think that it should have been a TV series. Like, I really think that if you stretch this kind of stuff out, when you figured out about the lights, I really think it's good storytelling. I just think that if it was longer and more expounded upon more, it would have been even better. It's almost like it's rushed so quick, like boom. Oh, I figure out that, these lights are going to kill them, that you can use these lights, things like that. And like boom, they're vampires. Oh, we know they're vampires. Or boom, this you can get turned into a vampire like this. It's things like that I would have liked to seen spread out a little bit more, I think.
Drew, you got any quick thoughts, man?
Oh no, other than really, like I was saying earlier, it's another when they are talking about, the grandma's, growing of the herbal in the bag. Here it is. Here it pops up in there. He's using her grow lamp
Very true.
to take out,
Right.
his right hand woman, and then radio's like, oh, it worked. It worked. Like Brian said, that would have been that this little part here could have been like a 30-minute episode.
Right.
It
I
really
agree,
could have.
man. God.
Just this one part right here could have just been a good 30-minute episode of like, oh, they figured this out, and they're like, okay, how can we weaponize this? Blah 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 blah.
Right.
But that's the only thing I really got to say on that one is just that they did so well of like putting it there and kind of leaving it there, but not saying, hey, pay attention to this because it's going to be used later, but then gets used, and you're like, oh, that was okay. That's where that came from.
It's great storytelling. It's great storytelling. I just wish it had a little more detail, like you said. But in a movie that's already almost 2 hours, I guess they don't have time. Like it's not like the shortest movie of all time or anything. So I get it.
Right.
However, we've seen longer movies than that. It might have been okay, like to add, just a couple more little backstory details, and that would have been a really good storytelling point. Yeah, I actually wouldn't mind one day. It's been 12 years since this movie came out. I wouldn't mind someone taking this source material and making a little series about it because I do think it could be done really well. I don't know, Netflix or Amazon or Hulu or something like that could do. Really, Hulu does really good little horror things like that. Actually, I think their original horror stuff is pretty good. So
I think they would don't go out there productions.
Yeah, no, I'm good on that. No, I'm good, fam.
Well, it's kind of like they did with it. They redid it and made it. Well, that was about a 5.5, almost 6 hour production for 2 movies.
Right.
They could do that with this movie as well. I don't know if it would create the hype though.
No.
But, they could definitely do it with this.
Right.
The vampires, they cut the power off in this house where Eben's at. Eben leaves the house and reunites with the rest of the crew. The guy Bo, who's got the truck with the snow plow, he tells them to meet him here, and I wrote in quotations, he says it's his turn. Now Marlowe, the lead vampire, he kills the female vampire. He says, I can't remember what he said, whatever can be broken must be killed or something like that. It's a pretty cool line. I should have wrote it down. But as he kills the female vampire, Bo shows up with his awesome bulldozer. He starts it's got that big saw on the front. He starts cutting up these vampires. He's running them over. They jump all over the bulldozer. He's like shooting them with a gun. It's a really cool scene. There's a lot of action in this movie that keeps you interested. And he drives his bulldozer right into this house. He jumps out and he sees like all of them about to attack him. So he takes I guess it's like dynamite or some kind of bomb, and he blows it up, but it doesn't kill him, unfortunately, and he's just thrown from the house. And Marlowe, the lead vampire, finds him, and you get a lot of gore in this movie, but this is kind of a weak head stomp, honestly, compared to like Halloween Tour and the new Chucky movie.
Yep.
He just gives Bo one little head stomp, crushes his head. Now we're back at the station, and I think this guy's name is Malachi. He tells all the rest of the survivors, he's like, I'm ready to die. He's like, the only thing I have left in this world is photos of my family. And he said his family was killed by a drunk driver. All he has is pictures. He says he wanted to commit suicide on his own, but he just didn't have the strength or courage to do it. So Eben takes him into a room. He has the axe in hand, shuts the door. You hear a few noises, and spoiler alert, that's probably my least favorite kill. The others who are in there, they're kind of shocked when they hear the noise of him getting killed. Then the screen says day 27. They look at the window and they see in another house, they see this light flashing from a window. And they're like, oh, that's Billy. So they all get over to Billy's house, and Billy tells them like all their family is dead and they're in the bed. So they get Billy back to the station, and everyone's gone. So they leave the station. Then now they're under a house and see a little girl walking. Stella sneaks out and grabs her. Even goes out to fight this vampire. Do y'all got any quick thoughts, or we just keep reading?
I just got one little thing I want to touch on, just because it's kind of a the guy that plays Bo is I absolutely love this guy.
Right.
Love him.
Yep.
Love him. He was one of my favorite characters in Sons of Anarchy.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
I forgot he
And
is in that.
so he's always been like a favorite of mine.
He
And
was in Batman Begins, and I think
He
Too Fast, Too
was.
Furious too.
yep. And he does got a role. I can't remember what the other TV one is, but he's one of my favorites. Like I've always just enjoyed him in a lot of the movies and TV shows I've seen. And I'll tell you this, it's that scene that you say it was a bit. It's actually my favorite one because Bo goes, "You ain't gonna eat me.
And
You ain't gonna eat
right.
me."
And
And
real
then
quick,
he
right.
drops the candlesticks down, blows up, and you're like, "Oh no!" But then he, steps down. And I was like, narrator voice. He did in fact get eaten.
I was gonna say I actually love I like that scene a little bit because of the you ain't gonna eat me and ends up getting eaten. And I really do like that. I also like the suspense of that, or the intensity of that scene right before they cut to day 27. Like that. I actually really like the suspense or intensity, whatever you want to call it. So nothing to really add as far as the plot, but I really like that. I like that scene.
Well,
It's
I
not
mean, I think they could have done a better job of. You don't know the
right.
passage of time except for just, hey, day 27. But
That's true.
none of them look like they've been there 27 days. None of
Right.
them. I
That's a
mean,
good
it
point.
look if they didn't have that there, you would think it's all happened the same night. So I think they could have done a little bit better job showing the passage of time, especially with, you could have dramatically made the characters look different. I mean, there's hardly any facial hair on some of them, and hell, it's 27 days later, so it's not like they're shaving while they're hanging out under a building. So
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point about the. It doesn't really look like they've been, aging at all, or not, super bad aging, but like no facial hair. Yeah, I get what you're saying. They don't really look that dirty or nothing. Even tells Billy he's going to get back to Wilson's business where that big ass grinder is. As he gets back, he sneaks in. Kind of the scenic way he gets into this business. He sees his brother Jake. He hugs Jake again. He sees the rest of them. And this is, I really like Marlowe, the head vampire. He's giving off his squad to destroy them all. Speed's kind of getting them fired up. He's like Mike Norvell right now with all of us FSG fans, getting us rallied for the big, for the takeover.
Hey, Nico.
Go ahead.
Hey, real quick. This is like a weird episode to do this in. And I know we're in the middle of reviewing a movie, but I've had this asked to me a couple times. So I want to answer it now that you say that. I've had it asked to me a couple times by people that we don't really know and some that we do. How do we all know each other? Well, that's how. We're all Florida State football fans. We all met online through Twitter. And for those of you who don't know what Florida State football is and you're just listening for horror, it's probably one of the scariest things I've seen in the last couple of years. So you should probably try to watch it if you really love horror. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, hey, wait, Nico, I do want to say one thing.
Go ahead.
The scene, I mean, when they find Billy again, the scene where basically they find that he's shot his family, in his house. That, to me, that's a really powerful scene. And
it is.
I shit on Hartnett earlier, but I think that he did a really good job of acting this scene. Like, it really showed that shit really bothered him to find that. So anyway, that was just, I wanted to point that out.
No, I agree with you.
I agree.
Billy, he makes it to the business as well, the same way that Even showed up there. Even he walkie-talkie Stella, trying to make sure she's okay. Billy is roaming around this business, and then he's attacked by a vampire. He's bitten. And then Even and the others, they attack this vampire, and the vampire gets on top of Even. But Billy, he tackles the vampire into this grinder. And then you just see the most, you talking about painful looking. Billy gets his hand caught in this grinder as well. He and Billy, he just sits on it. He sits down by the side of it, and you can hear him like screaming, crying because half of his forearm is missing in this grinder now. And then Even notices that he's been bitten by the vampire, and he slowly turned into him. So Even takes that axe, and he kills. He has to kill Billy as well. So he could. It's pretty brutal how they show Billy's head cut off.
I was going to say,
hack by hack by hack.
That was great, though. I love that. That was really awesome.
Even Even's still trying to get a hold of Stella on the walkie. She eventually, she that little girl she grabbed, they're hiding underneath this car, and the vampires are all over everywhere. They're lighting houses on fire. They've lit all the like telephone poles up, and I wrote down this is a big chess match between the vampires and Eben, because Stella's told him that they're underneath his car and they're going to either freeze to death or they're going to get burnt alive. So Eben knows he's got to make a quick decision. Even then, it shows Eben he goes and gets a syringe, and he removes some of Billy's blood and injects it into his veins so he can become a vampire. And he gives his brother one last hug. And we're almost at the very end. I'm gonna get you guys' thoughts on Billy's death and Eben becoming a vampire real quick. Brian, go ahead, man.
So that's where I have this nitpick on this movie, is because I'm one of those kind of sticklers for realism, but it's a freaking vampire movie. But I mean, even vampire movies, you've got established rules, and all these rules are different in all kinds of vampire movies. This one, to me, doesn't establish any damn rules about. Like, it shows somebody getting scratched, like, was it John and then turning into a vampire.
Right.
It shows the little girl. It doesn't really show how, but it's kind of implied, basically you get bit by a vampire, you turn to a vampire. Okay, we get that. So why does Josh Hartnett's character only like half turn into a vampire? He's like, basically turns into Blade almost from.
I was gonna say.
Blade. And it's, why does he not ever turn completely bad? And why does he not just suddenly start wanting to kill everybody instead of, I don't know. It's like, I wish that the movie would have established these vampire rules a little bit more.
10 cc's of vampire blood is all you need to be half blood.
Have blood.
Drew, you got any thoughts on Billy's death? And
No, I don't got anything on it.
No, I agree with everything you said as far as like storytelling and making sense, and you're absolutely 100% right. I do like the fact that he ended up having to be half vampire. Like, I think it added to the story, but like you said, could be explained better. The only thing is, the sacrifice. Again, we're getting back to him being somebody I can really, really root for and get behind. Well, I like that's in there. Yeah.
And I wonder if there was any deleted scenes that I'm missing here. So I didn't watch any of the deleted scenes if there are, but maybe there is a scene where it establishes something and they just left it out. I don't know.
Amazon Prime should include the deleted scenes, damn it. Actually, it wasn't Prime. I had to rent this.
I was gonna say, I paid for this. You got it?
I paid for this too.
It'd be interesting to actually get a hold of like the comic version part.
Yeah, it would.
That's, that'd be kind of cool. I wonder if you can I didn't even look and see if you could do that.
Yeah, and honestly, I searched on YouTube about this movie because YouTube has a lot of like documentaries, or background. There's really not a lot on this movie on there, and I was kind of frustrated a little bit. All right, so we're going to get to the finale. This is a really, really. They do have this final fight scene on YouTube if you guys want to go watch it. Really Even leaves the building to go fight Marlowe, the leader. Jake tells Stella, "Hey, now is your time to run," on the walkie-talkie. Even walks up on Marlowe. Marlowe gets the upper hand, and they're fighting. And like Brian said, it's kind of weird. Like, they don't really establish the rules because it shows even like yelling at them to run, even, and then they're on top of like this vehicle, they're fighting and slamming each other's head on it, and then like Marlowe runs full speed at Eben, then Eben's like, it's pretty cool. Eben just like super punches his hand all the way through Marlowe's head, killing him, and then it just shows like all the vampires just running away. I guess they're nothing without their leader. I'm guessing is all I can think of. Stella approaches Eben afterwards and asks what he did to himself. And I thought this was a pretty powerful line. He says, "I did what I had to do." And Stella, it just shows her starting to cry. And now I'm gonna read the final scene that I have wrote down. It just shows Stella and Eben, they're sitting together on this cliff. I think it's the cliff where the beginning of the movie was, where the stranger was looking. It's the final night, and the sun's getting ready to come up, so they're spending their last few moments together. They get one more kiss, and then the sun rises, and it just shows Eben, his face is getting burnt. His whole body is getting burnt up. It's like the female vampire did in the shed. It just shows him, his body pretty much convulsing, twitching, and you see his face turning black, and you feel the emotion that Stella puts out too.
Right.
That, her husband is dying in her arms, and that I guess they finally put all their differences beside each of themselves. But it's a really powerful scene watching Eben die in her arms. Drew, do you want to give your thoughts on this finale?
I liked it and enjoyed it. It was very it had a little mix of everything in it, and you didn't really. I mean, you knew the character had to. You didn't know if he was going to come out completely and live a long life or whatever. It was. I mean, it's neither great nor terrible, but I mean, you still had an unknown factor to it, which I liked all the way up until put the big ass hole in his head.
Mike, you got any final thoughts on the finale?
Man, I loved it. I absolutely thought it was great. I thought the fight scene was great. I thought the emotion between our two, our two important characters, of the whole movie. I mean, there's some really good side characters in this movie, but you're following these two. And they're going through their problems. And normally I'm not a big fan of tying in relationship stuff to horror. I'm just not huge on it. But I think it's really well done here. The way it ends, the way they kind of put it aside. You could tell they still love each other. Maybe they're not cut out for each other, but they still love each other. They go through this crazy shit together. And one made the ultimate sacrifice. And I think you could tell the emotion there from Stella is really high. She really appreciates that, but also she's losing someone she truly cares about. And again, I don't feel like that's the right thing in a horror movie. It's not scary, but I did like the resolution of that story. And again, I like that they had to make him a vampire. And by the way that he dies is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's I'm not the bumpy. It's kind of gross, but it was really well done. It's cool.
Go ahead, Brian. What's your thoughts on this finale?
Yeah, I agree with you that Melissa George had great acting there at the end.
She did.
And I mean, just the line where she's laying up underneath the Jeep and talking to him on the walkie-talkie, and says, I should have never left you, baby. That was just a really strong line. And maybe, Mike, you don't really care for it in horror because it's honestly not really well done ever.
Yeah, that's true.
It's really well done in this movie. As far, like I said, I could say the acting a billion times is great in this movie. The last, I don't know if it's the last two kills, but they are probably my favorites in the whole, tied for my favorites in the whole thing, where the vampire is kind of thrown into those turrets, right when with Billy there, the deputy kill there. That's probably my favorite one. And then the big bad, Marlowe being punched through the back of his head. Practical effects, absolutely amazing. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump into some fun facts. Y'all cool with that? Y'all got any wrote down? I got a few wrote down.
I got
a couple of mine.
Okay, go ahead, y'all.
All right, hopefully I don't steal y'all's, but I just wrote a few down I saw on IMDb. The vampire speak a completely original language. It was created for the film with the help of a linguistics professor at a New Zealand university. It was shot mostly in New Zealand. Nearly half the cast is Kiwi or Australian. Josh Hartnett did all of his own stunts. Melissa George did most of her own driving. And the last fun fact that I wrote down was all the snow in the movie was actual snow. I thought that was kind of cool.
I did not know that.
Drew, you want to read your fun facts that you got?
The only one I got really on here is, they produced this on a budget of $30 million and grossed 75 just because it was only ran for 6 weeks.
Wow.
But it come back with 75. It was only ran for 6 weeks. To me, it's kind of impressive.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
And then, the sequel was made in 2010 and it went straight to video.
And that, man, it's crazy because sequels are weird, man, especially in horror. Because, we kind of talk about a lot of sequels on this show. We haven't reviewed a lot of sequels yet, but we're going to. But we've had, I don't want to spoil anything. But anyway, we've touched on some sequels and some are really good. And some are just complete and total dog shit. And I haven't seen the sequel to this, but you kind of make me want to watch it.
I just want to just watch it just for shits and giggles.
It's got really bad reviews.
Oh, it's terrible.
I got to know. I have to know now, is it so bad it's good or is it just bad?
I mean, it went straight to video after grossing 75 million, so the second one's got to be pretty bad if it went straight to video.
Well, it's so bad it's good before, though.
Well, it bothers me too that Melissa George didn't come back. So it's her character, but it's recast.
Oh, by the way.
That.
How do I feel about this final girl? I remember her name. That's all you need to know.
True. It's true.
Hey, Mike, do you got any fun facts?
I ended up not having any fun facts. I saw some of the ones you guys put down, and I just didn't get a chance to write them down. So I'm glad somebody at least said something. But no, man, I don't really have any on this movie.
All right, Brian, read your your fun facts.
I've got a few. Mike mentioned earlier about how he really liked how you felt the cold and felt how it was outside. But and actually, most of the film was filmed during the day, and they actually color graded it to make it look like it was nighttime. So I thought that was pretty
Huh.
cool. Little fun
Crazy.
fact.
That's awesome.
You would have never been able to tell. I couldn't tell that.
Right. Well, and Josh Hartnett apparently was sick with mono for most of the filming in this movie too. And the last thing that I thought was pretty cool was that the in the graphic novel, the story that the head vampire actually travels to this town to stop the rest of the vampires because he believes that an attack of this magnitude would draw too much attention and expose the vampires. So I mean that's actually
a good storyline. They should have done that in the
take
damn sequel, you idiots.
Yeah, right.
Oh, smokes. Yeah.
Anyway, that's all the fun facts I had.
Mike, do you want to do your favorite kill, least favorite kill, and rating first?
The deep breath.
My favorite kill is, man, it's tough just for the scene being so good. My favorite kill is, I mean, I'm having a hard time remembering characters' names. So you have to forgive me here. I don't even know if we learned their names, but the couple in the house, that's my favorite kill. Like that, those two being killed. I love that. That's my favorite kill. My least favorite kill is probably the axe. Although my tie for favorite kill is Bo getting his head chopped off, just because it's so damn brutal. The way that it's very, very brutal. But my least favorite kill is probably the one we've already talked about that Brian liked and nobody else did, but that's okay. My rating is probably about a 7.5. Really good. I was entertained by it, and it never dipped off for me. I know we talked about some of the scenes being a little bit not unnecessary, but just kind of confusing. The plot line, at least in my opinion, kind of an ebb and flow. But I really enjoyed it. I thought the gore is good. I like the plot. And by the way, you got to do a lot of work with me to make me watch a vampire movie. So when I watched it in 07, I was like, wow, okay. I hadn't seen it since because, again, I'm not a vampire movie guy. I kind of forgot about the movie. I'm glad Brian made me rewatch it, though, because really enjoyed it. Again, it's a 7.5, which I think is a pretty that's a high score.
Drew, you want to go?
Yeah, that's fine. My favorite kill, obviously, is the same scene I was talking about with Bo. Most of my favorite because the "you're not gonna eat me" bit, and then it did. I don't know why that just stuck with me. Like even before, I think I watched it before. I don't remember that part. I don't even remember that part, but it just stuck out to me. And then my least favorite scene / kill, I guess, is the chopping of the guy's neck like a block of wood. It just it just did nothing for me. Just that one, but it wasn't like a terrible.
No.
But compared to all the other ones in it, that's why it was there. And I actually, for my rating, it's kind of odd because I actually gave it like 2 ratings because I gave it a horror rating for me and then a movie rating.
Uh-oh.
You son of a bitch.
Here comes those hot takes. Those hot takes I was talking about. Go ahead.
I already told you. Well, the main hot take, I was like, yeah, this is what I've put at the very top of my notes. I said, if I'm going to watch a vampire movie, I would have much rather watched Twilight.
Than this?
I'm joking.
What the hell?
I was like, holy shit, you're on the
I am joking.
You are out of here, pal.
I am joking. But I gave it like a horror rating. I gave it a 5.5, but as a movie rating, I gave it a 6.5.
Jesus.
Okay.
All right, I'll go next. That's fine. Hey, it's everybody's opinion. Hey, we shit all over his movie last week.
I'm about to say, we should
I know, right? Jesus Christ.
I know. I got
all over him growing up with his grandma watching movies. We pooped all over that movie.
Hey, just wait until next week. Oh, man.
All right, my favorite kill, I picked Billy. He got attacked by the vampire, got his arm chopped off in the grinder. Then he got his head chopped off, and it showed all of it, which I really liked. My least favorite kill was the Malachi guy that even took into the room. You didn't even see it.
Yeah.
And I'm a girl with Mike. My rating was a 7.5. I wrote down that I'm not a vampire movie fan per se, but it's entertaining. I thought Josh Hartnett and Melissa George I thought their acting was good.
Yeah, it was.
I thought everything that Evan does leading wise is believable. Like as he led the people, I thought it was believable. The cons I had, where their story between them two weren't explained well. But we talked about that a lot during this movie. They crammed too much in that hour and 55 minutes, basically. I thought the cinematography was awesome. I'm not, Brian, you have to tell me if this is true, but I thought some of the sets you could tell were sets. Like some of the houses, like in the fighting scene, the houses and the fire didn't look real at all to me. So I don't know about that. That's just what I saw. And I wrote down this is my favorite part. I wrote down big shout out to my man Manu Bennett, the guy who played Billy, because I'm a huge fan of the show Spartacus. And Manu Bennett played Crixus. Crixus wasn't necessarily my favorite gladiator in that show, but he was one of the three main characters, and he had a lot of good moments. And I think Manu Bennett is a great actor. Personally, he shows feeling great. I think he's a great actor. And then I wrote down a hot take question: is Josh Hartnett the greatest horror movie hero ever? Because he killed Marlowe, the lead vampire, and he survived Michael Myers. But I was just kind of joking. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead with your quick interjection, and Brian can rate and give us his favorite kill.
All right, real quick. Sorry, I thought Brian had already went. I'm rewatching the movie real quick. Bulldozer, the chainsaw bulldozer scene is on. I forgot to really highlight that. Awesome scene, awesome kills. Great job. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're
all
good.
Right, Brian.
I told you my favorite kills probably, but I really like all of them. I mean, I know a lot of them don't like the axes to the head, but I was looking at it more of like, God damn, that looks real. And the fact that, it's not like most movies where it's one swipe with the sharpest blade ever and cuts a whole head off. It was like, it had to chop wood at it. I would say probably my least favorite kills were all the ones that were off screen. And I understand that probably if you showed all those kills, it probably got a rated X movie and the MPAA wouldn't, probably let it through. But, I would have loved to have seen more of that, like an unrated cut or something. I would have loved to have seen all those kills that were off screen. Like, it didn't, some kills in some movies will do you justice if they're off screen and you don't see them. And I don't think any of these really did much justice that I can really think of. It would have been nice to have seen them kill, actually. We need to get a listener out there, I think, to go through and show and let us know what we rated all the movies, because I would love right now to know what I have, every one of my movies rated, because I would be like, is this movie better than this? I don't know. Right. But it would help me out. Right now, I'm going to give this movie an 8.75, which I haven't gone into 2 decimal points yet. I like that. So now I am. I'm going to have them all over the place. But if you got a listener out there that wants to, kind of tell us what we've been rating stuff and, and how crazy Drew is rating things, then, let us know, please.
I mean, if they ain't said nothing to our Twitter account yet, then I think I'm doing just fine.
Here, allow me to add the Twitter account real quick here. Oh, sorry.
8.75. I thought about doing the 2 decimals, but I haven't done it yet.
I know exactly. I think in my head I've already picked out what movie I'm going to save it for.
But I really just want to tell Brian, I did like the movie.
Me too.
Like we've all discussed tonight, I wouldn't mind, if maybe a streaming service or maybe a production company maybe pick this idea up, but maybe pick the comic book up itself and maybe make 2 long movies like they did with it, or maybe make a 4 or 5 episode, kind of a show and like actually explain everything that went down. Because they did that with Spartacus after the first season. The lead actor, he had cancer, so they did a prequel, and it was like 5 or 6 episodes, and it was really good.
And if any production company does that, get Danny Houston back to play a vampire, for God's sakes, because that dude's amazing.
Right.
Nah, just get Robert Pattinson.
Drew, damn it. Drew's he's stirring the pot on the timeline. Now he's stirring the pot to our listeners. Damn it,
dude! He got me with that. I was like, "Are you serious?"
I thought Brian was about to run through the screen after you.
I ain't gonna lie, it wouldn't have been my call, but I would have wanted you off the show if you meant to.
I would have logged on Twitter and I've been like, "Damn, Brian blocked me."
We've kind of got a new rhythm of picking movies. We're all gonna pick one movie apiece. I might should have said this at the beginning, but all of us are going to pick a movie each week. And then I think, for our after we do our 4, we're going to have a guest or not a guest, but maybe a listener, maybe, or maybe we'll put up a poll of what we should do next. We're going to try and involve our audience a lot more. But next week we're going to be reviewing a movie Mike is picking. Mike, do you have that movie picked yet? And do you want to announce it?
I do. I'll announce it right here. So I went back and forth. We're kind of in the spirit of trying to do a couple different things outside of slashers before we go back to slashers. Because again, I think we kind of all love the slasher movies, the slasher genre, and the five main honchos, except for Drew, who's on this show to provide balance, which I appreciate. So, but I've been trying to go different, and so we've done, haunting movies. We've done a vampire movie. We did some slashers. I really wanted to go found footage. Of course, there's two really main kings as far as found footage goes. So I was weighing my options between two, and I picked the granddaddy of them all, which is 1999's Blair Witch Project.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to take some Dramamine before I watch.
Some love, some hate. And by the way, I'm not picking this movie because I love it. I'm picking this movie because I would like to watch and review it. So we'll see if I love it. We'll see. Been a while.
Honestly, that's one thing I do love about us doing this podcast is it's making me watch movies I've never seen. I never saw the original Amityville Horror, never saw this movie, and I haven't saw Blair Witch Project either. So this is a new movie I get to watch and check out. So that's going to be fun to do.
It was almost Paranormal Activity. We'll do Paranormal Activity at some point.
That's right. But like I said, I got a trivia question for our listeners, so pay attention. In the previous film we reviewed, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, an actress played Pepper. However, Pepper played the final girl in a different franchise. All I want y'all to do is the first person to tweet the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review podcast, the Twitter account, tweet me that actress's name and what film she was in as the final girl, and we'll send you a free t-shirt. And if we don't have an answer within a couple of days, I'll just tweet it out.
Well, somebody wants to win this. Come on now. You can be on one of only, 5 people now that will have one?
That's right. Everybody wants free stuff. But Brian, great movie. I enjoyed it. Appreciate you putting something new into my life. Again, congratulations on the new baby girl. Really happy for you. Glad you're getting some sleep.
Thank you.
And we'll be back next week with a Blair Witch Project. Hopefully I get to shit on it because I don't know about found footage yet for me either. And just want to remind everybody to don't go out there.